We're going to call this meeting to order. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us. We are going to open this meeting, and I'm going to call the roll, and the roll shows that all are present, minus Barrett, our president. So item number 5 is public comments. Ms. Steiner, do we have any public comments? All right, item number 6, we're going to consider and act on personal recommendation. Ms. Cordell.
Yes, thank you. I am so excited to share our administrative recommendation with you this morning for our new Executive Director of Human Resources and Communications. We are recommending Ms. Anna Koenig, who currently is a Managing Director of Human Resources with the Frisco Independent School District. Ms. Koenig has been in education for well over 20 years. She has experience as an elementary school principal, experience as a director and a managing director in the area of human resources. She did some remarkable work in Frisco ISD, where she was responsible as a principal for the opening of a new elementary school, and then supported principals in the opening of many elementary schools during her time in that role. We believe Ms. Koenig will be a significant asset to Lovejoy ISD because of her expertise, her experience, and her passion and commitment to putting kids first.
Wonderful. Any comments or questions? Okay, with that, I need a motion.
I move that we hire Ms. Koenig as our new head of HR in that area.
I'll second that.
All right. First Chad, second Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We would like to invite Mrs. Koenig up. We have a little gift for her. And then if y'all are agreeable, we'll get a picture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to. Thank you. Yes.
Did y'all say that?
Yes. I'm a writer. Okay, you're Just take for me. Okay. Beautiful.
Okay, great. So now item number 8 is to consider and act on approval of Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee members. Ms. Cordell.
Oh, number 7, Amy.
Oh, did I already check that? Sorry. Okay, yeah, number 7, consider and act on approval of 2021-2022 campus improvement plans.
Yes, board, at our last meeting, our principals presented to you an overview of their 21-22 campus improvement plans. Those campus improvement plans were also provided publicly, posted in our board book at that meeting as well. We wanted to give everybody plenty of time to review those before we asked for your approval. So we are recommending your approval this morning of the 21-22 campus improvement plans.
Are there any questions or comments?
So moved.
Motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second. Oh, give it to Marvin.
Marvin second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, item number 8. Consider and act on approval of Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee members. Ms. Cordell.
We are very excited to share an update on our Lovejoy 2030 strategic planning process, because that means we are making progress and headed towards when we will come together to do this important work. We are calling our strategic planning effort Lovejoy 2030, and we know that excellence has to be by design. We are being very intentional with the way that we approach this process, and very much keeping in mind that Lovejoy is a uniquely special place, that there is only one Lovejoy, and that we are all leopards. Our Lovejoy 2030 strategic planning process will be grounded in our mission, core values, graduate profile, and it is community-based. It will involve students, parents, community members, as well as teachers and staff. And this is aimed at taking our culture and our legacy of excellence to the next level. We are going to very much focus on making sure our students are future ready, as well as achieving long-term financial sustainability. You've seen this before. We have some working groups that are going to work in 7 key areas: teaching and learning, graduate profile, legacy of excellence, financial sustainability, operations, future ready, and then talent acquisition, retention, and support. You'll see that we had an interest application window. We had 75 applicants. And then we plan to, hopefully after today, after y'all consider approval, we will be notifying the committee members of their status, or the applicants of their status. And then we have 3 meetings that run from 8:30 to 3:30, January 25th, February 11th, and then March 21st. And then we plan to bring you a recommendation, a presentation on our strategic plan in April. Just a reminder that the role of the Strategic Planning Committee is to really engage in this planning process to honor the needs of the entire community. They serve in an advisory capacity. We want to create deep alignment between our mission, our core values, our graduate profile, and these strategic targets that we are aiming to achieve. We will establish priorities together, and then we want everyone that is part of this work to be a champion for it and for the success of that vision. You'll see that we have presented for you a list of committee members, as I said, that includes students, parents and community members, as well as staff members. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you want to just share the amount of time that we're meeting and kind of what that looks like?
Absolutely. We will be meeting on 3 days. We will be meeting on Tuesday, January 25th, Friday, February 11th, and Monday, March 21st. And we will be meeting from 8:30 to 3:30. During that time together, some of it we'll be working in a large group, and then some of it we will be breaking into our working groups to focus more deeply on these 7 areas.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm sure it wasn't easy narrowing down from 75 to 30. So I guess I just want to say the names of the people up there, thank you for being willing. And then those of you, if you weren't selected, thank you for being interested, and please continue to be engaged and supportive. And there's lots of work to be done in Lovejoy, so we can all continue to be rowing in the boat in one form or fashion. So.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I need a motion.
I move that we accept the list of nominees as shown.
Chad first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Marvin? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Looking forward to that. It's gonna be a really important mission. Okay. I'll delay my announcement of next to let you walk up. Number 9.
It's a long walk.
It is a long walk. Finance and operation update from Dr. Duplessis.
Thank you. That was difficult to decide when to start the walk, but we appreciate y'all's attention this evening to a brief finance and operations update. There's been activities going on, and we want to definitely keep you apprised of any developments. So we're going to touch on 3 topics briefly this evening or this morning: compensation grants, tax rate analysis update, and a brief update on operations. So first, we wanted to let you know that there are several compensation opportunities provided through state-funded grants. And we have not pursued some of these in the past, but we are interested in anything that we can do to increase compensation for our teachers and staff. And so we feel like these are opportunities that we need to explore more fully, although they are usually developed around state requirements. They do use state funding, not our funding. So it gives us an opportunity to add to what we may be able to offer. So we wanted to update you on several of those items. The first is T-class, which encompasses a number of different opportunities for the district to reach out and provide initiatives. And so under this particular program, these are the types of increased compensation we have the opportunity to extend to our staff that we've already applied for and are in the process of completing. They're very targeted, so we don't have a lot of opportunity to apply them the way we would like, but we certainly want to get funding from the state so that we can provide that to our teachers. So for T-class, that includes one College Bridge teacher that we might be able to get an additional stipend for, in addition to education teacher on decision 4B. They split this grant up into several different decisions. We also have 2 paras who may be eligible as they work to complete their schooling as they're interested in becoming a teacher, which is a really exciting opportunity to provide them with some funds to help them complete that process. And lastly, some teacher residents, again, bringing new teachers into the district and offering them a stipend. So those are some opportunities that we're in the process of. We've already applied for the grant and exploring any of those ways to bring in additional compensation for staff. The second is called the Strategic Compensation Fellowship Grant. It couldn't all fit on the title of the slide, so I shortened it briefly. But that is a competitive fellowship that we are engaging in the application process for already. What it is $75,000 to $100,000 with a 20% district match for development of a teacher compensation strategic initiative. It's kind of, I will say, under the umbrella somewhat of the teacher incentive allotment, which you may have heard of before. And so preference is given to districts who have decided to go into the teacher incentive allotment to get this additional grant. And in order to do that, we had to submit a notice of intent by December 22nd. We went ahead and did that. The application is due on February 4th. And just, again, getting ourselves in line for any of those potential opportunities. The third, as I mentioned before, is a teacher incentive allotment. There was a lot of conversation several years ago when this first came out, because it does require that we either use the state model of offering this incentive to teachers who are nationally certified, or developing our own locally designated system, which is a bit of a complex process. But we do feel like it's something that we can engage in using some of the tools that we already use in the district. And that will give us the opportunity to develop a teacher incentive allotment program. So cohort E was temporarily closed. It was open again. So we submitted our intent, which was due by December 31st. This is definitely a program that has to be built. So we'll have to attend lots of meetings and start to develop it. So Ms. Koenig, we're so glad that you're here to help in that process. The data capture year that we submit our data to the state is 22-23, and the implementation would not be until 23-24. So it's kind of a long-term thing. But those are some compensation opportunities that we want to explore, so wanted to update you on. The second item we wanted to discuss was tax rate analysis. We've been looking at different developments as it came out of House Bill 3 and going into our next 22-23 budget. Doing an impact assessment of our tax rate and the components. So what you'll see here is a demonstration of the Lovejoy ISD tax rate over time, broken down into the bottom is the M&O tax rate, the gray portion, and the red portion is our INS tax rate. So M&O is our maintenance and operations and what we function on an annual budgeting basis. And the INS tax rate is generally what we use for long-term capital expenses such as buildings and maintenance. So there's a further breakdown here of the tax rate components. Within that M&O side of the tax rate, it's broken down into a maximum compressed tax rate called an MCR, or an additional enrichment tax rate, or a DTR. And then the debt rate is that INS piece that I mentioned before. So when you break down that M&O side, the MCR is the maximum compressed tax rate. for the tax year per $100 of valuation at which the district can levy M&O. So that's kind of the bare minimum. On top of that, there's an enrichment tax rate to bring in more revenue, and that is broken into copper pennies and golden pennies. The golden pennies, the school districts can claim up to 8 of those. It is not subject to tax compression. The 9 copper pennies on top of those golden pennies are subject to compression, and they are also subject to increases in the guaranteed yield. So to kind of express what that looks like, this is a breakdown of Lovejoy ISD's tax rate based on each of those components, further breaking down. The top, again, is the debt or INS portion. The bottom 3 components you see are the golden, copper, and tier 1 pennies within that M&O side of our tax rate. So as you can see, we're already taking advantage of the full 8 cents of golden pennies available, as most districts are. We are also taking advantage of some of the copper pennies available to us to bring in more revenue for our students. So we are not using the maximum amount of copper pennies available. So all other things being equal, when that MCR tier 1 tax rate falls, local tax collections fall, the local share of the program falls, but state aid increases. So that tier 1 tax rate nets out between local and state, but we are already, as almost every district in the state is, taking advantage of those enrichment pennies. So if we were to lower our tax rate on the M&O side, it would actually decrease our total revenue. So this slide shows you an example of what would occur if we did a change in our tax rate and lowered the M&O side of it. So you can see, some of you can probably see better than I can because I didn't bring my glasses up here. But if we were to lower that amount, essentially what happens is if we took the MCR from 0.9164 down to 0.8248, and we got more of our funding from the state, that red bar, the FSP, versus our local tax collections, you can see that the net result is the same total amount of revenue. Essentially, we don't gain anything additional by doing that. The source is just shifted. House Bill 3 did allow us some enrichment options for school districts that weren't previously available. We have capped out, as I said before, the 8 golden pennies. 2 of the copper pennies turned gold within House Bill 3. And while House Bill 3 reduced the number of copper pennies available to 9, it was 11 prior to that, it did increase the yield to 80% of the basic allotment. So the number of pennies is lower, but the yield is higher. Those copper pennies are subject to recapture. So you may have heard that Lovejoy ISD does send some funding back to the state each year because of our local property tax collections. For 2020, 2021, I wanted to run an impact analysis of what our tax rate would have done if we had gone and tried to get those extra 3.17 pennies, the copper pennies that are available to us under House Bill 3. If we had done so, a lot of the concern of districts who are subject to recapture is that we are going to send a little bit more money back to the state. But interestingly enough, because we don't have a huge amount of recapture, it really would have increased from 251,000 roughly to about 387,000 in terms of what we sent back to the state. However, our total revenue would have increased from our revenue net of recapture would have increased from 1.4 to $2.2 million. So definitely we would have raised far more revenue than the additional amount we would have had to send back to the state as a result of recapture. So the interesting thing to note here is that by if the district were to ever consider increasing the 3.17 copper pennies available that started to be available to us in 2021, the district would have increased the revenue total by $775,000, reduced by recapture of $135,000, netting about $640,000 more in revenue. What that means is that, of course, each year that number is going to vary a little bit. But if the basic allotment is increased by the state, which is currently $61.60 per student, if that were to ever increase, that amount of revenue would also increase. There are some videos linked here that provide more detailed information about what occurred in House Bill 3, tax compression, and how it relates to school district tax rates.
Jennifer, can you remind us, if we wanted to do that, what steps would the district take and how does that happen?
That's an excellent
I'm not
question.
saying I want to do it. I just want to educate. the group.
Mhm. So that's an excellent question. The process would be a BATRE, which would go go out to vote. So essentially, we would have to run an election that would be in alignment with the typical elections that school boards do for bond issues or things of that nature. We would do a BATRE is what it's called. So typically, though, that process has to start really about 9 months in advance of an election to get everything in line and all the compliance pieces put in place for that to occur.
Thank you.
Good question. So that was an analysis that we just wanted to share with you as we completed what that looked like. And then the last update I wanted to provide was on the operations side. And so I'm so excited that I get to show you some pretty pictures. A lot of times I show you a lot of detailed numbers. But in terms of project updates, our winter storm repairs, we got a lot of that wrapped up during Christmas break, some of those smaller projects that we had to wait till the kids were out. So some carpeting, some concession heaters we're still waiting on. So just some of those items trying to wrap up the repairs from that winter storm in February. The LCDC playground equipment, we're expecting that hopefully by the end of this month or beginning of February. Baseball turf is looking really good. So I'm going to show you some pictures of these athletic projects so you can kind of get more of a sense of what's going on. Obviously, there's still work going on some of the ancillary portions like shot discus, press boxes, practice fields, but the turf for the most part is substantially complete. The scoreboards won't come till March, so we'll continue actually to use the ones that we had as opposed to doing a temporary, just because it's a lot to bring that in. We think we can use the scoreboards we currently have until then. We did some updates to our facility use, so it's been great to work with the athletics department and ensure that we are responding to an inquiry we had in the fall in regard to liability and use of our facilities. And so we're updating some documents that will allow us to make sure that we're covered as a district from liability as much as possible, and that we are updating our licensing and contract documentation related to that. And last but not least, thank you for approving the tennis court fence repair in the December board meeting. We did issue that PO and are waiting on the material, but we're hoping that will come in this week. So that is a picture of the softball field. I just think it looks amazing. And I wanted to show you. Thank you. It's a lot of work. And softball is so much more work than baseball. It's so much bigger. And then the baseball field is progressing. We had some progress shots to share with you because it gets uglier before it gets prettier. But that was the last aerial shot I could get of the baseball field. So it's definitely tying up, looking really good. I'm excited to see the kids out there soon. I also wanted to mention that we do have an auxiliary job fair coming up. So just sharing that in any avenue that we can. That job fair will be for custodians, student nutrition staff, bus drivers. It will be on January 25th from 9 to 11. We'll have some breakfast. So if you have any, areas in the community that you would like to get that out to, we would love to. Our staff are just doing an amazing job of keeping up with the number of challenges that we have, hiring that everybody's having on the auxiliary side, as well as absence coverage and things of that nature. So we really appreciate what they're doing and are going to do what we can to help bring some additional help in. So that is all I have for the update, unless there are any questions. Any questions, comments?
Really, really appreciate your leadership. Being last night in the financial sustainability meeting, you're digging so deep and really evaluating everything there is to evaluate and pursuing everything there is to pursue. We're extremely grateful and thankful for your leadership.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
The fun stuff.
So for item 10, do you want to start or you want me to read first?
I'll start.
Okay,
That's okay.
absolutely.
Lovejoy ISD had an incredible day yesterday because we had a remarkable student recognition, and that was that Avery Carlson was named the Gatorade Texas Volleyball Player of the Year. So the most elite volleyball player in the state of Texas. And Lovejoy ISD has even more remarkable news this morning, because as of 9 a.m., we are allowed to share that Avery Carlson is the Gatorade National Volleyball Player of the Year, the most elite volleyball player in the nation.
Yeah.
We're going to call you up after we read a couple more things. But I want everyone to know that this award is obviously, the foundation of this is the athleticism, the significant accomplishment, and it represents, I can't even imagine how much hard work and dedication, focus, and perseverance of Avery over many, many years, and the remarkable support and love of her entire family, who we had the delightful pleasure of getting to interact with and meet yesterday in this very special moment for them. But what is, I think, even more impressive about this award than the athleticism is the fact that this award also requires the high school student to have exemplary character and academics as well. And so to have a student who is so remarkably well-rounded is absolutely incredible. Avery is humble and kind and just adds value to every room and every team that she has the opportunity to be a part of. And this is such a remarkable celebration for her family, but I want her to know that it is a remarkable celebration for our school district and our community. And she has shone such a bright, positive light on all of Lovejoy ISD that really exemplifies what we believe about a culture and a legacy of excellence. And so I want to thank her for that. And I know you have some very important words as well.
I have the tremendous honor to read the resolution. Whereas the Gatorade Player of the Year Award was established in 1985 to recognize the nation's most elite high school student athletes for their athletic excellence, academic achievement, and exemplary character. And whereas Avery Carlson has been recognized as the Gatorade National Volleyball Player of the Year, and whereas this distinguishes Avery Carlson as the most elite high school volleyball player in the nation. And whereas Avery Carlson is the first Gatorade Texas Volleyball Player of the Year to be chosen from Lovejoy High School. And whereas Avery Carlson exemplifies the Lovejoy Independent School District graduate profile through her accomplishments and contributions both on and off the court. And now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that we, the Lovejoy Independent School District Board of Trustees, take great pride in formally recognizing and honoring Avery Carlson, the 2021-2022 Gatorade National Volleyball Player of the Year. Congratulations, and you have no idea how thrilled this community, I'm sure you do, but we are so thrilled for you and so honored to have been a part of this and to see, like Ms. Cordell said, the bright and shining light this provides, and we are so thrilled to see your journey and watch you through your years. Congratulations. It's official, so I need a motion.
I move that we recognize Avery Carlson in that resolution for her on the court and off the court grace, humility, and performance. Unbelievable.
I second that. And I'm sorry, but I know what goes into this. I can only imagine, so tears of joy.
Together perfectly yesterday.
It takes a village, right?
So all in favor?
Aye.
I'm not even going to ask anybody. Motion carries.
Sure, we're gonna get a picture. Yeah, have Avery come on up. We will. We'll do all that.
You have every right. We want to hold a resolution. Okay.
And then we're gonna do more pictures after we'll get this. Right now.
Oh, don't worry, I'll always be right there with you.
Really long.
The trophy.
Y'all should all kind of.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I woke up yesterday and was very unaccomplished. Avery already.
We'll keep you for another year. Sure, Mom was okay.
All right, do we want to have everybody extended, like, family,
Everyone.
athletic director,
Yeah.
baseball,
Everybody.
where's the cabinet? Bring it here. Yeah, if you're not a volleyball player, you have to be like
Gentlemen are gonna have to get closer to each other. Pretend like you like each other. We're all family here. One Lovejoy. Perfect looking.
She recognizes a couple of them.
I know.
Okay, so item 11 is announcements. I don't believe we have any unless you have any.
I think that was a pretty big
I
announcement.
think so. I would agree. All right, then if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned.